This week on the Baseline Podcast, Josh and I discuss the heartbreaking loss for Buckeye fans as Ohio State loses to Michigan 13-10, and we discuss the downfall of what could happen next. Will Ryan Day be gone? What will happen to Ohio State in the playoffs? And does truly Michigan have Ohio State's number? All that and so much more coming up on the Baseline Podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Baseline Podcast. I'm Ben, that's Josh, and what a weekend. What a weekend.
Unreal.
We'll get into all of the nitty-gritties here in a second. For me personally, like my high school, shout out to my high school, West Liberty Salem. You guys made it the farthest you've ever made it. You were one win away from going to state final, and you had to face Ironton, who has two dudes going to Penn State. So really, I don't blame you for doing that. But,
Ironton's good.
Awesome. Yeah. So really good for West Liberty and being able to do that. But yeah. So Josh, how was your weekend? I know my week's been just kind of crazy already started, and it's only 2 days in as we're recording this. So how's your weekend? What you been doing?
Yeah. I did have Thanksgiving off, but like Thursday and
nice.
Friday, I did a lot of sleeping just because I had to work
No
the
Black
day before
Friday?
and after. No Black Friday shopping for me. It seems like Black Friday deals go on the whole entire week, so I
They
got
do.
most
They
of
go
the
like the
stuff
whole
that I
month.
needed early.
Here in Hungary,
Yeah.
they're like for a month. I was like, why do I need to go out?
Now, why does Hungary celebrate Black Friday but not Thanksgiving?
It is weird. It's like the weird, like I think they want to, you know what I mean, like that globalization type thing where it's like they Americanize. Certain countries will grab like an American.
They're all about
type
that
of
making
holiday.
money, but not the extra day off of work and
Exactly.
thoughts of being thankful.
Exact-
Yeah,
and
they
actually-
got half a foot in.
And actually, because they don't consider the 23rd and 24th as like give day holidays for the staff, you basically have to make those up. So I have to work on 2 Saturdays in a row now.
Got it.
Such a lovely, lovely time.
Yeah. Thursday, I pretty much was awake for dinner with my family. But the weekend, obviously, I guess the one local W over here in Ohio, in our area at least, Jalen Santoro, Bellevue football legend, coaching Perkins now, defeated Cleveland Glenville,
Wow.
him and his team. Yeah,
Congrats.
it was a very cold game, but they won 13-11, I
That's
believe was
awesome.
the final, and now they'll play in the state championship this Saturday. So very exciting stuff for at least the area over here in the Sandusky Bay Conference.
There you go.
But yeah, most of the people that I know are feeling the pain that you are with the Ohio State loss this weekend, the
Mhm.
Browns loss on Monday night, and I'm just watching it as not an Ohio State fan. I kind of jump in the Michigan bandwagon sometimes, but I'm just astonished at how that game went.
Mhm.
Nothing like what we expected, and it turns out that Aaron Lynn maybe had the most reasonable
Mhm.
prediction out of all of us, and he still was off by a mile.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know how you want to go in order this. I think I got some stuff to say at least about Michigan first, and then
yeah.
I can hear the Ohio State thoughts from the
Well,
actual Buckeye fan on the podcast.
Yeah.
But I also got Ohio State thoughts too, but I'd like to hear yours first.
No.
But at least as far as Michigan goes, this is 4 years in a row, and I would say that Michigan is in the driver's seat. They own Ohio State. Like this game has always been played on their terms. They're right there in the fourth quarter. They haven't had to punt, Ben, in the fourth quarter since 2019. Time of possession, they had the ball for, I think, over 13 minutes in the fourth. Ohio State then just has it for like under 2. Like Michigan, it doesn't matter if they're coming in this game with 11 wins, 10 wins, or 6 wins. For whatever reason, Ohio State just can't get out of their own head, or they just, I don't know. Ryan Day, I know, like after the Notre Dame win last year, is like, I want to know where Lou Holtz is so we can talk about how tough this team is. And I don't know if he's just hell bent on proving that Ohio State is tougher than Michigan in the trenches, but we've been proven time and again that they aren't. And you don't have to win that way because you're Ohio State. You got so much talent on the perimeter, you got so much talent on the defense, and they did their job holding Michigan 60 yards passing or something like that. You hold Michigan to just 13 points. Like I thought Michigan would score 10, so like right around the range, and I would have thought that would have been plenty for Ohio State to win this game. But instead, Ohio State decides to go right at the one area that Michigan has the advantage, the defensive tackles against the Ohio State offensive line. And they pound the ball up the middle. I think it was like 15 to 20 times or something like that, and just couldn't get a run game going. I think just ended with 77 rushing yards in the game. But yeah, you got to credit Michigan. Like they run this rivalry right now. They own Ohio State right now, and they understand this game uh, more than Ryan Day and like some of the outsiders over there. I have no idea, but yeah, I said last week I do not see a path for Michigan to win unless Ohio State was just going to go totally out of character, at least as far as they played in the regular season. But honestly, not too far out of character for how they've been playing Michigan these last several years.
Yeah. Um, I wrote notes down today. No, I
Hmm.
look. Um, I first want to preface this because everything you said I've heard all weekend long from every podcaster, from Menace to Sports to non-Buckeye podcasts to the podcast, all these different podcasts that I sometimes listen to. And, you know, going into this game, there was the one thing I said, if you remember last week, I said the only way Ohio State loses this game, the only way I saw Ohio State losing this game is they shoot themselves in the foot. I said that's the only way. That's the only way I see them losing. We've seen it before, and you know, I was so confident this year. We had like a
We
Thanksgiving
all
with
were.
we had a Thanksgiving with family, like not family, but like with Rebecca's organization. So we had a Thanksgiving like during the game. So I was kind of like watching it as things are going on. And someone asked me at the table, they said, "How do you feel?" And I'm fine. We're gonna be fine. I can't wait till next week when I have to stay up at 2 a.m. to watch the Big Ten championship game. And I wrote this down. I knew something was going to be weird and wonky when I saw not the first drive because I felt like they passed the ball pretty well and I was like, okay, this is kind of good. But once I saw them start running it up the middle, I went, oh boy, this is going to be a long game. And look, I hate to agree with Feinbaum and some of these other idiots in the national media, but they were right over the last few days when they're talking about how Ryan Day just wanted to prove himself. His ego was, and my dad and I talked about this. His ego was bigger than the game, and I believe this. And there's so many people that I do agree with this, that when you yourself as a coach have put yourself above the game and above the team because you want to prove yourself. And he hasn't come out and said this, but it's very obvious. He won't answer any questions directly about it. It's obvious that he wanted to prove himself to the world. He was tired of the national media slandering his team, slandering him that, oh, they can't run the ball. Who cares? It's like my dad and I said, who cares? Throw the
Right.
ball for 550
Win the way that
yards.
Ohio State wins football games.
Exactly. And so that's what was frustrating because I watched the Indiana game. Now they weren't perfect in Indiana, but when they had to go get points, they got points because it's Ohio State, right? They have more talent. They had more talent than Michigan
The
all the way
town took
through.
over. Yep.
You have a former walk-on quarterback. You had banged up offense, a banged up defense, a banged up offense for Michigan. And I'm going to first preface this by saying this. I do not want to hear Buckeye fans blame the defense. This is not the defense's fault. The defense missed one tackle at the end
There's
of the
absolutely
game.
no way you
but,
can blame the defense
but
for
you
this.
can't hold them to that one tackle they missed in the last drive. They shouldn't have been in that situation. But what Caleb Downs did, that interception he had was ridiculous. Then Jack Sawyer saying, you know what? I'm the Ohio kid. I'm the one that wanted to lead this charge to come back. And if you look, he did a JJ Watt. He looked and saw the tight end coming off and he said, no, that's mine.
That
Right.
ball was
And
majorly underthrown, and he was right
yeah,
there, ready for it. Yep.
and part of me with this is that moment, I when I saw that happen, I truly believed, like, this is the drive that we
That
go
was
and
supposed to
win.
be the turning
That
point.
was
Yep.
the drive. And even the interception by Caleb Downs, you are on the 16, and this is when I truly knew the game was open. This is when I truly knew this game had a really good chance to be an L for High State, was when they get the interception by Caleb Downs inside the 20. I'm like, dude, all you need to do is just this is the play calls they decide to do. Run up the middle. Okay, why? Like, let's just attack it. Let's throw it up to JJ Smith at the 16-yard line. We throw it to the end zone. They've been pass interference with him all day.
Yeah.
And then I said, okay, fine, you try to run it, whatever. Then you decide to do a pass back to the tight end when you know that Michigan knows the tight, like they're so boxed in, they're not going to let that happen. So I was like, oh, great. Okay, it's 3rd and 9, whatever it was. Then you decide to run a draw play where you have Tegra Shabola just get manhandled by both defensive tackles, right? So at that point, now it's fourth down. And in Jaden Fielding, like, okay, this is okay. I'm about to go on a rant, and I told Josh before ahead of time this is
Yeah,
just going to be a long
I
ranting
know how
session
this is
by
going to
me.
go. Fielding made like 14 straight kicks under 50 yards or
But it
something like
wasn't.
that going
But
into
that's
this
not.
game.
But that's not my issue. This is my issue, Josh. Is how come every other team in college football, even the crappy teams, can get a kicker who can kick a 60-yarder or a 55-yarder. We can
Mhm.
barely get a kicker that hits a 46-yarder. And also, I get missing it from the right hash. I understand that because as someone who works
Right
with
hash
special,
kicks are the hardest
they
ones in
are hard,
college. Yeah.
especially as a righty. But you're at the left hash in that kick. You
Yep.
do not have to even turn your foot. Just kick the ball. That's all you got to do. And then people are going to be like, oh, kicking's hard. I'm like, I'm not saying it's not hard, but that's what you are here to do.
Hmm.
And so you add that on top. And again, I could we'll go into more of the game and everything, but it's fine. It's whatever. Okay. My issue with this whole thing is this is that we had all off season. I kept fighting and standing up for Ryan Day. And Josh, you know this as well as anyone. I've stood up for Ryan Day.
Me
Even
as
when I've
well.
had my doubts, I've stood up for Ryan Day. I've said, this guy knows how to coach talent. This guy knows how to find talent. And he has, and he always has. He's brought, Hartline and all these guys. This is not a blame the whole coaching staff. This is blame the top. If this was your game plan, you sat with Chip Kelly, because I don't believe this was Chip Kelly's game plan totally. A lot of people are saying that. I don't believe so. I think this was a Ryan Day saying, Chip, this is what we're going to do. And for me, that was the anger, was that you had a full week to go and a full year to go, look, this is a 6-5 Michigan team. They're banged up. All you have to do, when they got up, when it was tied 10-10, I was like, oh, perfect. This is what they're going to do the second half. No, we go back to the first quarter play calling. All you have to do is just do enough to win and don't hurt yourself. So I'm going to say this. This is the question I know you're probably wanting to hear from me and everyone else want to hear from me.
Mhm.
Should Ryan Day be gone? And this is my honest opinion. I have twofold. One, he's not going to get fired. Why? He has a $39 million buyout. It's not going to happen. It does not matter what people say. I don't believe it's going to happen because, one, I think Ross Bjork would have not said anything this past week if he was thinking about that. I don't think that is in the cards. I know some people are saying, well, if he doesn't make a run in the playoff, it's going to be a fire. I don't believe this. I think it's one more year. This is just my take. I've talked with my dad about this. I listened to another video about how it's just really hard, and especially at Ohio State, they don't normally do that. They usually now they did with Holtman in basketball, but that was only like a $20 million buyout, which is, I know it doesn't seem like a lot of difference, but that's a lot of different in money because you have to pay
It's almost double.
NIL plus a new head coach. So, and also my dad brought up the good point. Who are you going to hire? There's no one out there that is top tier, right? That you can come in and bring in, at least in my mind. So that's the first thing. I don't think they will. This is what I believe. Now, do I think am I done with Ryan Day? That's a complicated question. Because I look back and I go, this guy is a good hold away from making a national title against Georgia. When they beat Georgia, they would go and most likely win a national title against TCU. They are a couple stupid play calls a couple years ago to also be in that playoff, probably have a good chance to make the national. So you're what, a few plays away from what, 3 national title bids and then that's a whole different conversation, right? And even though if you've lost to Michigan, and again, I get Ohio State fans. I'm not trying to say that he shouldn't beat Michigan because that's always the goal. And I'm very angry. Like I was super angry on Sunday. I was like, how is this the game plan? I mean, the picture is always going to stick in my mind. The picture of him after the game and looking like a deer in the headlights.
Just watching
And
the
going,
teams fight at midfield.
But it wasn't even that. It was before that. Even before that happened, it was just like he was shocked that, wait, I just lost. And it's like, because you're so caught up with yourself. And that is why I'm on the fence of like, I'm done. If you put yourself above the game, I'm not saying it's like John Cooper, because John Cooper just didn't care about the rivalry. So there's a difference there. But what I'm saying is if you've put yourself above the team, I don't care. And I believe when someone said, I think I think it was RJ Young or someone said like they become Kentucky basketball, where they're great for prepping dudes for the NFL, but they can't win the big ones when it
Yeah, that
matters.
was RJ or Colin Cowherd, I
Yeah.
think.
And so for me, I agree with him. A 100% agree. And so there needs to be a mentality shift in Ohio State's mentality. And I don't mean toughness because I'm done with that. I've never felt you had to be the tougher team. Like, yeah, maybe defensively, but I felt offensively you don't have to be. Because I think defensively this year they were the tougher team. I think they were brutalizing, they were tackling, they were making the plays. I mean, you look at they scored 10 points on 6 yards. So I think at the end of the day, it's an offensive mentality of like, if you're built to throw the ball, if you're built to be a more of an outside spread team, do it. Will Howard should have never went back in the game. He looked beat up. He didn't look like himself after that hit. Put in Devin Brown, or whatever. But I guess to finish my point, Josh, is that, someone asked me, I think it was today, was like, how angry are you? And are you going to root against Ohio State in the playoff? Stupid question, by the way. I'm not gonna like. I don't get this. I've heard Buckeye fans like, "Oh, I hope they lose." And it's like, no. Like people don't realize that this is the crazy part about this whole situation is Ohio State is 4 wins away from winning a national title, and then Ryan Day now has looked at a different whole light. He's like, "Wait, hold on. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm not saying it will change, but what I'm saying is if you go and make a run, you beat, let's say, a Tennessee, you go beat an Oregon, you get a rematch, you beat Oregon." Then you go and you face, let's say, I don't know, let's say Alabama or someone like that. I don't know, not Alabama. Let's just say, who would it be?
Notre Dame.
Like Notre Dame. Then you beat Notre Dame. You get that other win against Freeman. Now you're going to go play for a national title. So I want Ohio State fans to not hold on to this. I hate Ryan Day. I want to fire Ryan Day because I think there's a bigger picture. And what I mean by that is that you're not going to find someone to replace him that is maybe going to be the guy that you truly want, unless everyone's saying Vrabel. Vrabel ain't going to coach, college football. So I guess at the end of the day, Josh, I was definitely more angry on Sunday and Saturday. I was just furious, and because I do believe they blew the chance to swing that momentum. And do I think that this is going to ruin everything for Ohio State in the future? No. But I do think this is going to be where you do a true mentality switch, and I don't know what that's going to take. I do think the offensive line coach needs to go. I think you need to reshuffle things offensively. I think you need to figure out special teams again. But at the end of the day, honestly, Josh, I'm really disappointed in Ryan Day and that it was about him, at least in my perspective, than about the team. So that's my take. I'm still going to root for Ohio State. I still think Ohio State has a really good shot to compete for a national title if they get this kind of pushed to the side and let's focus on what we've been doing good all year. I think they have a good shot. That's my end of my rant.
Yeah. There's a lot there, yeah. So I guess to go off of that, I'm just looking at the game and like what's gone on the last 4 years, and I'm just like, okay, what's Ohio State's excuse now? Because
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, let's run down the list here. So Michigan wins the national championship last year, and they got like only 2 starters coming back. So all the talent's gone. They haven't recruited to the level that like Ohio State can to replenish. So it's going to be, a lesser talented team. Meanwhile, on the other end, Ohio State has so many seniors come back. Like they had 6 of the top 11 recruits in that 2021 class, and 5 of them are there. Just Quinn Ewers transferred out, but they all were back. Donovan Jackson was back. Travion Henderson was back. Donovan Jackson, Emeka, the list goes on, like JT and Sawyer, they're all there. Like all these guys, plus other seniors like Lathan Ransom come back because they want to win this game. It's like when 2007, when Mike Hart, Chad Henne, and Jake Long all came back because they hadn't beaten Ohio State yet. And then they lose that week 1 game to App State. And then at the end of the year, they don't get their revenge. They go 0-4 against Ohio State or whatever. So yeah, the talent. It's not the talent. And then you spent $20 million in NIL on this roster. Like it wasn't just supposed to be the more talented roster in Michigan. It was one of the most talented rosters in the country we've been talking about. Like the ceiling was so high at Ohio State. And then on top of that, Michigan coming in this game, the lesser talented team. Their best offensive player, Colston Loveland, inactive. Arguably their best defensive player, Will Johnson. Mason Graham's also another one up there, but Will Johnson doesn't play in this game. So overwhelming talent advantage to Ohio State. Uh, you could look at coaching, like everybody on Ohio State's coaching staff. I mean, it's like all-star level. You go out and get Chip Kelly to call plays. You got Jim Knowles calling the defense. Then on the Michigan side, you basically got Sharon Moore and I mean everybody else left from that coaching staff last year. And also the big one, no Connor Stallions this time, right? No
Mhm.
cheating, no film like stealing or sign stealing or whatever the heck. Like there's absolutely zero excuse that I can see as you go down the list for why Ohio State lost this game. But the one consistent thing throughout all of these, and you talked about it, is Ryan Day. I don't know. I mean, the guy can do all the talking, like I said last week. He can talk about how he wants to hang 100 on Michigan, but these last 4 years, he still hasn't even put 100 total points against
Yep.
Michigan yet. He can say that this Michigan loss is like losing to Michigan is the next worst thing to losing his dad. Uh, I mean, that's 4 times. That's like borderline almost losing your dad 4 times. Like maybe mentally Ryan Day just can't handle this game, or you could go the totally other direction. Like you said, he put himself above this game. He's so arrogant to think that you can win games at Ohio State a certain way, but then when you go to Michigan, you have to prove that you can win their way. And you don't need to do that. Like just go out and win the Ohio State games. Like you
Mhm.
said, why Jeremiah Smith only have 3 catches in this game? Like, yes, you were targeting him and there'd be defensive pass interference, but it's like that was the only way that Michigan really seemed to be able to stop him. Like I can
Or
recall two or
Emeka
three.
or Carnell Tate.
Yeah. Yeah, you got like, I mean, I'm just talking about one of these guys, but it's
Yeah.
like every time that they'd go to Jeremiah, it seemed like the only way they could stop him was defensive pass interference. So you'll take 15 yards absolutely every single time. But yeah, and then there's so many third and long setup because you guys decided to just try to run the ball up the middle on first and second down. And I don't know if Will Howard, I'm trying to remember what I read. I don't know if Will Howard only took 1 or 2 attempts further than 10 yards. Like there was
Yeah.
absolutely
No, he
no
didn't.
desire to like take a shot downfield or try to like make Michigan's defense spread out. Like it
After he
was
been
all
after they've been doing that
condensed.
lately, like after he'd been doing that for the last few games, he'd been taking
hmm
shots.
Yeah, it was like all a condensed, like right there. Like I said, in
And I
Michigan,
hate
the
it. And I
way they
hate
want
when
to play
Ryan
football
Day.
is right in that phone booth.
I hate it when Ryan Day used the weather as an excuse. I'm like, shut up. Freaking
Michigan also had to
Michigan
deal with the weather.
and Michigan threw the ball in the weather and completed 3 third down completions. So I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
I just don't.
It's just like I said, as you go down the list, it's like, okay, well, I don't know what the excuse is, but the common theme in all of these is Ryan Day. And so I know you're on the fence, but I'm at least there. I'm like, you got to get this guy out of town. And to the point of who would you go and get better? That's a great question because I don't know who that next big
There's
time
only
coach. I
one
mean,
name that's coming through, and that's Campbell from Iowa State because he's an Ohio guy.
well,
That's the only name coming through.
you got to think too, like some of these other coaches that have been like homegrown, like where'd Lincoln Riley come from before he coached at Oklahoma? He was an assistant on the team being groomed to coach there, just like Ryan Day was
Yeah.
an assistant, never had a head coaching job before he took this one. Dan Lanning had been only an assistant coach before he took over to Oregon. Now he's got the best team in the country. Like,
Mhm.
I don't think that you're going to be able to go out and like Urban Meyer was like super lucky coming out of retirement, be able to come and get him like the Ohio roots. I don't know if you're going to be able to go and get like a Nick Saban or if you're going to be able to steal Kirby Smart from Georgia. I know that's what everybody would love to talk about. And I don't know if, like, yeah, Matt Campbell has the Ohio roots. I think he's from Massillon. He's coached at Toledo before. I don't know if, like, a guy like that is who you want to go or who you'd be excited about or someone that would give you the confidence that you can at least beat this Michigan team. And then, yeah, Vrabel, never gonna happen. I don't know why people still entertain that. That dude's never gonna be a head coach in college football scene, at least. So I don't know who it'll be, but I doubt it'll happen. I don't think that they're going to fire
No,
him.
no.
Bjork, the AD, is giving me like Gene Smith vibes, where he would defend Ryan Day and talk about how it's just a game, and Gene's like from Notre Dame, so he doesn't really get the rivalry. Ryan Day's been a part of this rivalry for almost a decade as an assistant and a head coach, so I don't think that it's that he doesn't get it. It could be just like you said, he's put himself above it, and maybe they just need to move on from that now and just scratch because like there's clearly something wrong with the culture. Um, that 2021 class never lived up to the hype that they should have had. Jack Sawyer has to go out 0 and 4. I mean, hate
I
to
feel
see it,
for him.
especially with the
I
effort
feel
they
for
put in
him.
that game. Um, but yeah, and then the scene at the end, it's like I know everybody's had like different opinions about the flag
Oh,
planting
I
and the
have a strong
fighting at the
plan. I have a
end and the
strong opinion.
yeah, I'll give mine first. The pepper spray and all that. I've never seen pepper spraying on a field, by the way. I don't.
I do understand why they did it though,
Yeah,
because police officer got injured, so then they started getting more defensive because police officer getting injured.
tensions were high there, and a couple schools of thought is like, well, if you don't want Michigan to plant the field, then don't lose
Yeah,
the game. It's
but
like, no
um,
kidding. But also,
disrespectful. Just
I'm
disrespectful.
I'm this is my thing. I'm for flag planting. I love it. But I guess if you're Ohio State, like, why are you putting all this fight in at the end? Where was this the whole entire
But I think they gave that
60
effort though,
minutes, you
Josh.
know?
I think they gave that effort. That's the thing. Is I think the defense, at least the defensive guys that
The
like
defense did.
Igbinosun,
Yeah, absolutely.
Sawyer, like. But you got to think about this too, there, Josh. When the flag planting start in college? When was the first time it happened?
The furthest back I can remember is Baker Mayfield.
And where was that
I
at?
don't against Ohio State.
On
I don't
which
know if it
field?
happened before that, but that's just like the first
No,
one that I can
that's
remember.
and that's where they all believe it started. And I think, and okay, mm, this is where I'm at. They I think it was Mullins came after the game and said like you need to learn how to lose. And I said, yeah, but you also but
I
I said
hated that.
but I also said you need to learn how to win. Like there's no reason there. You listen, if you're in a Michigan guy, and I'm not saying this because I'm a high state fan. I'm just saying this as a fan. When I saw it all on Saturday, I saw it happening all over the place. This is what I believe. You should know that if I plant this flag, something's going to happen. You know that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like you can't be naive. And so the fact that Michigan did that, and I hats off to Sawyer and to Igbinosun saying, no, just stop. Just
That's
get rid of this
exactly what should
crap.
happen because Ohio State got called out for not defending their field when they planned the field the last time that they were in
Yes.
Columbus. So that was the appropriate response, and I don't hate it at all. I just hate the moral high ground position that Mullins tried to take with acting like that they weren't in the wrong and that Ohio State like
You
doesn't have the
instigated it.
class.
Like you
Exactly.
instigated
Like
it.
own that you instigated. Like you were the underdog in this one. This is the biggest you've ever been as an underdog in this game since the 70s that either side has been. This was your season. And at the end, like Jack Sawyer's like yelling at Mason Graham like your season's over and Mason Graham's yelling stuff at Jack Sawyer back. It's like this was Michigan's season. Like they came in wanting to win this game, spoil Ohio State's season to the best of their ability, and they were able to do that. And then you plant the flag, and I mean that's the response that you got to expect to get. So I don't hate it at all. I just thought it
No.
was wild, like how much it escalated to the point
Well, I
that
also
police just need to use pepper. But I don't hate
also
that because we want passion in college football. That's why we love the
yeah.
sport so much. And if Ohio State just like let them do that, then
Yeah, that
they're
was the
they're
point.
damned if they
Well,
do or damned if they don't.
that's the thing. People would have ridiculed them if they would have let them do it.
Yeah.
People ridicule them if they'd stop it. And also, I love seeing Travion Henderson and a couple of the Michigan guys praying while these fights are going on. I just thought it was hilarious. I thought it was so cool, at the same time. But also this too, Josh, is I hope, I hope this sparks. Maybe this is what they needed. And I'm not saying I don't condone the fist fighting. I don't. I don't condone the fist fighting. Um, but I do hope that maybe this lit a spark in the Ohio State program. That maybe this was like, yeah, maybe Khalil Mullen is right a little bit, and maybe we need to go take care of our own business, and maybe this lights a spark for this postseason. You know, I don't know. We'll see.
It
I want
I
to hear
mean,
your thoughts on that.
yeah,
Do you think this will light a spark? You think for some of these players to
I think like we got some evidence that it will. The Georgia game that you brought up, they lose that one just by one. It wasn't a game that they just like laid down. And
yeah
I mean the bowl game against Missouri, everybody like had players missing in that one. I'm not going to use that as like evidence, but for a game that actually mattered where all the starters were in play, the playoff game against Georgia, like that was the most aggressive we'd ever seen Ryan Day coach, and that was the
mhm,
most aggressive we'd ever seen CJ Stroud play. So it was just, it comes down to a missed field goal at the end and then maybe like a couple bounces of the ball that didn't go your way, but like they brought their A game and at the end of the day Georgia was just the better team.
yeah
But the thing that sucks about this one is in the 14 playoff, like two losses is going to get you out, but at least losing your second game to Michigan in this instead of to Oregon in that Big Ten championship game probably going to screw up the home field for you guys.
yeah
We'll see how the
it's
rest of the
yeah
we'll see how the rest of the field shakes up. Is there a
yeah.
chance that you're like, the 8 seed at the end of this and you still get a home game? Maybe. But
And you still
I
get
don't
your
know.
revenge, and you still get a chance to have revenge against Oregon as well.
Yeah, depending on how that bracket gets drawn up and how the seeds all go. Yeah, there's absolutely that chance. But yeah, I mean, if you guys end up with a home playoff game or whether you gotta, travel on the road to one of these lower level teams. We'll see what happens, but I
What
think
what's your
that
take? What's your take on give me a percentage. Do you think that Ohio State uh, two percentages? What's your percentage that you think Ohio State wins it all? And what's your percentage they at least make it to the last four or the last two?
to win it all. Yeah,
Take the, not. I'm not saying completely take this game out of here, but if they go back more closely to where they were in Indiana Penn State game,
yeah, it's just like a Michigan thing. Like I think the 12 team feel like after like the first three or four, like there's a pretty big drop off, and then like that 5 to 12 range is like pretty close. But we'll talk about our power rankings later. Ohio State's not really going to fall in mine, and the fact that Michigan's not going to be in this 12 team to get into their head, I think Ohio State plays and like coaches and plans totally different when it's not Michigan.
mm-hmm.
So. We still got like that 1 point loss that they had at Oregon. We got the 7 point win that they got at Penn State. We got the double digit win that they got over Indiana. Like there's still a lot of good football that Ohio State has played, and it's a better collective resume than what most of these other teams got. Like there's still a lot of these teams that don't have a ranked win yet, which is wild. So as far as like chance to win, I mean, I'm gonna give Ohio State like a 25 to 50% chance to win it all still. If you want an exact percentage, then I'll put it smack dab in the middle there at like, what would it be,
35.
37 and a half?
Yeah, 37. Yeah, yeah.
37.5% chance to win it all
So
still.
you think there's a good shot they at least make it to the Final Four? You think?
Yeah, yeah, Final Four, I'm gonna go like 50%.
Yeah, because I
I
think
would
if they
be,
get the right path, man, it would be
yeah,
great if they got the path of like Boise State that they would play in the second round, and then they would play like an SMU. Then you're asking for a good matchup.
yeah. Does that cure the Michigan win for Ohio State
No, it
fans
doesn't.
or the Michigan game? I don't
Look,
know.
if you win a national title, this is what I'll say as a Ohio State fan. If you win a national title, we'll give you some forgiveness. It's awesome that we won a national title. We'll put it up in the Woody, but it still doesn't erase that horrible loss. And you know you're gonna have
Hmm.
Michigan fans go, "Oh, we beat the national champion." I'm like, who cares? Also, we have a national title. You had one last year, so deal with it. But I don't know. Again, I'm not trying to dwell on it, but I just wanted to hear your thoughts because I know as an outsider, having like an idea of like because it's really hard as an Ohio State fan because we're so frustrated and we're so down that we almost forget that there's a playoff in front of us. Like we're actually in the playoff. Like we're going to have games in front of us. And I think sometimes we get so caught up in this that we forget about that. And I'm trying to remind Ohio State fans, like, look, we still have at least one game, maybe four games in front of us.
Yeah, the Buckeye fans that I know are kind of split. Like some of them are like, I hope we don't make the playoff, and or I don't even want to make the playoff, and then
Jeez.
some are like, we can still like win a national championship.
The
So
ones that don't want to be in a playoff just don't like adversity. And that's what I believe. Those that just don't want to be, they don't like the idea, like, oh, there's a challenge, of like, oh, how are we going to root? It's like you're going to root for Ohio State if you're an Ohio State fan. No matter what, you will root for them, you know?
yeah, I guess they just don't want it because like they want there to be consequences to Ryan Day, like to continue to
Jeez.
lose this game over and
Okay.
over again. If they
Do
make
you
a
know how many,
deep
you know how many
playoff
teams
run, then
would,
it means that he stays.
you know how many teams would take a 10-2 season? Like how many teams would take a 10-2 season? I have to remind Ohio State fans that. Like, do you realize that most teams would be like blessed to have a 10-2 season?
They would, but you aren't most teams. You're Ohio State, and Penn State and Notre
Yeah,
Dame
I
will take a
know.
10-2 season every day with just
Oh.
that loss to maybe Michigan and Ohio State, but
And I'll
or
be
Penn
honest with
State.
you.
But
I want these are the two teams I want in the playoff. I want Oregon again, and I want Notre Dame. Those are the two teams I want in the playoff. So bad, so bad.
that would be fun. I hope that we get at least one of those, and if we got both of them, that'd be sick.
Oh, I love
Uh,
that so much.
the playoff poll comes out tonight
Yeah,
after we record, but at least the way that the AP poll stands right now, the top several teams is Oregon at 1, Texas 2, Penn State 3, Notre Dame 4, Georgia 5, Tennessee 6, Ohio State 7, SMU 8, IU 9, Boise State 10, Alabama 11, and Arizona State 12.
that's my other thing. I I know Purdue is actually atrocious, but at least Indiana like handled their business against a rival. Like didn't just did what
They
they
did.
do. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
why? And that's you can get my blood boiling. Gosh.
Yeah, let's go
It,
over some of these
oh,
other rivalry games, by the way, because there were some other pretty solid ones too. The South Carolina Clemson game was close, but South Carolina pulls off a 17-14 win right there. It doesn't affect Clemson's ACC standing at all. They're still
because
going
of
to
Kyle
face
McCord.
SMU in the championship, but
Because of Kyle McCord. Because of
because of
Kyle
Kyle McCord,
McCord.
oh man, that actually is another fun point to bring up. Uh, is the chatter from Syracuse and even some of these other national media people pointing to that game from Kyle McCord, how they spoiled Miami's.
He also threw 5 picks in one game, so I don't want to hear it.
That did happen, but the way that they are looking at it as Kyle McCord led the nation in passing yards. He went 9-3 at
Jeez.
Syracuse,
Okay.
spoiled Miami's playoff hopes probably. They're probably not going to be in that 12-team field anymore now. And you go and get Will Howard and he plays the way that he does in that game. And
Okay. Well, I still don't think Kyle McCord likes the big sky because he
I
wasn't
think
in.
that Kyle McCord did not want to play in big games like that. His dad wanted a guaranteed starting spot, and he didn't want to fight Devin Brown for it.
Yeah.
So he left to go to Syracuse, where he wasn't going to have to play in any big, meaningful games like that Michigan game, like that Oregon game, like that Penn
Yeah.
State game.
Exactly.
You have the spotlight, and if he loses, no sweat. If he wins, no sweat. There's going to be less pressure, and a less pressure environment against, to an extent, lesser competition he had this season that he had. So, I mean, there's also a possibility that he grew from his junior to senior year, and that's why like the total yards went up there as well. So, I mean, I don't know if Ohio State fans are happy for him or not, but it's like, yeah, good for him. He got exactly what he wanted. But I'm not going to, if I'm Kyle, like, or at least when I watch Kyle, like, try to say, like, it all comes full circle. It
That
takes
pissed me
jabs
off
at
so
Ohio
much.
State.
Oh, that made me so
Like,
mad. I
what are
was
you
like,
talking about? Like, don't try to
you
act like you
abandoned.
wanted to be a
You
competitor.
abandoned the
Immediately
team.
after that game, the next day in the transfer portal,
You
he
abandoned
got
that team.
out, man. Yeah.
Don't. And it's not like Ohio State went, please leave. Like you just left. Like you just said,
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah. They didn't show him the door. They just told him that it wasn't a guaranteed starting spot.
Oh, that just when he said that, I'm like, I bet every Ohio State fan that lives in New York is like chasing down Syracuse and bus and being like, dude.
Yeah.
And you played in a
Um,
dome. Of course, you can throw for 4,000 yards. You're playing a dome half the year.
Dome half the year. Yeah. So Miami's season spoiled by Syracuse this weekend too.
And I hate people trying to compare Miami season to Ohio State season because it's not even close. It's not even
Miami does
close.
not have a win to stand on. They're 10-2 as well, but they have many more close calls to teams that they had no business being in the mix with, and they don't have a single ranked win that they can stand on.
Agreed.
Let's see. Notre Dame big win over USC. They win their rivalry game. They finished the regular season 11-1. Obviously, can't. They are the 4 seat right now, but they can't have a top four
They'll have to be
because they
the
don't have a
five. Yeah,
conference
they'll be
championship
five.
yet. The highest they'll be able to get is 5. So USC closes out their regular season at 6-6. Ben, it's the worst of Lincoln Riley's career, I believe, as a head coach. They are still bowl eligible, but now that USC's body of work is done over there, and we see a downtrend from USC from I think it was 10-2 that first year at that,
Yep.
or 11-1 it was, and then they lost that Pac-12 championship to Utah and had the 2 losses, so they didn't get in the playoff. Then last year I think they're 7-5 with Caleb Williams in his last season, and then this year 6-6. How patient we're talking about if Ryan Day is going to be able to hold on to his job. How much
I think it's less
longer?
for. I think it's less for him because I think you have that LA market. You have that LA like vibe. I just think that they're more willing to pay the money, and I think they're going to tolerate a lot less because he's losing guys in the portal. He's losing recruits. Like it's not like a Ryan Day. If you look at Ryan Day, he hasn't really lost any recruits. Like all the recruits
They're
are
still
kind of
recruiting
there.
top 5 in the country. Yep,
So
they just got another recruiting win at
yeah,
quarterback, second quarterback in the class from California in 27.
yeah. So it's like for me, it's like I just don't know how much more they keep the patience, and I've heard rumblings that they've talked with veteran NFL coaches as well. So I don't know. I mean, it'd be funny if Pete Carroll came back, but it's interesting to see. But Lincoln Riley I think he fell to the same extent as Ryan Day, where he kind of got himself that ego in himself that he, is the play caller of the future. And I think Ryan Day and him both have to realize that they're not that good at scheming anymore. They're not the same as they once were. And they're head coaches now. They need to stop worrying about that, and yeah, I don't know. That's just my take.
Yeah, like USC in the Big Ten, like
They're
these
just
are
not
like
built.
lesser.
They're
These are
just not
lesser
built.
teams, but they did hold UCLA to 13. They held Nebraska to 20. They held Rutgers to 20. They held Minnesota to 24. They held Wisconsin to 21. Like we haven't seen USC's defense play like this. So
No.
they're at least a moving of the needle on defense, but they just didn't have like the offensive production this year for most of the time, honestly. And yeah, the Big Ten, totally different culture. It's not one that like USC was really built for with the way that they were playing in the Pac-12. And Jaden Maeva took over at quarterback, finished the season there. He's a sophomore. We'll see if he's back. Miller Moss has already entered the transfer portal, so best of luck to that kid. But yeah, we'll see what USC is like in the future in this conference. Alabama and Auburn, another big rivalry game that really could have gone either way, but Alabama comes out on top 28 to
They're such a weird team,
14.
dude. They're such a weird team.
Aren't they weird? Yeah.
Jalen
Jalen
Milroe
Milroe
does it
doesn't throw a
again.
touchdown, but he does rush for 104 yards and 3 touchdowns, and
Dude,
that's
you shut down his running, man. He
you
is
got
not
to
a good
shut down the
quarterback.
Jalen Milroe run game. He's got like 40 something rushing yards in those 3 losses, and if you don't do that, then you're screwed. But at least right now with that win, Ben, Alabama is number 12 right now in the AP. I don't know if that'll be the same as the playoff
They're
poll.
trying to find any reason to put them in, man. They're trying to find every
Well,
avenue.
they are, but I think that we're going to see one of these freaking 3 loss teams in
South
because
Carolina.
of what
Should be
Miami
South
did.
Carolina. Should be South Carolina.
So that's what I was going to ask. Why would you say South Carolina? Because on the field,
I
Alabama
know.
and Ole Miss beat South
I know.
Carolina.
I think if they talk about the eye test all the time, South Carolina looks like the better at those out of those teams right now. They look like the better team, and they just had a really good win over Clemson. So for me, I just look at the eye test and what's happening right now. I know that they're going to say, well, over the season, but also Alabama has worse losses than South Carolina. So for me, it's like and Ole Miss does too. So I don't know where you go, but I mean, I just think where they're playing right now, South Carolina is the team that I would put in personally.
Yeah. So Ole Miss won their rivalry game against Mississippi State, got the Egg Bowl. So yeah,
Mississippi State's so bad.
they're all 9-3 right now, and I agree with you. South Carolina looks like they got the hotter hand, and they also weren't fully healthy in that Alabama and Ole Miss game. But I'm still just kind of like those games still happen. Injuries are a
It
part
also
of the
sucks that
sport.
they're a 3-loss team that's going to get in the playoff. It also just sucks.
Yeah, but you're right. South Carolina's got wins over Texas A&M. They got wins over Clemson now. They got the win over Missouri, and then on the other hand, it's like okay, Alabama's got win over Georgia. Ole Miss has a win over Georgia, but they got uglier losses. South Carolina's other loss was to LSU, which was like a bunch of freak stuff happened in that one. It's unfortunate, but I do think South Carolina has the hottest hand coming in. I just am like I can't put them in if they have also lost to Ole Miss and
Yeah,
Alabama. Like
yeah.
what happens on the field has to matter to me. So I hate that any of them are going to have to get in, but I'd probably lean Alabama if I had to put one of them in.
Well, unfortunately.
Yeah. So yeah, between 9-3 Alabama compared to 10-2 Miami.
Oh, it's
Obviously
easy.
Miami has
It's
obviously
easy.
Miami has the better record, but Alabama has some of the better wins. Like they got to win over Georgia. They got to win.
That's wild that that like 3 or 4 of our Heisman are going to be like not in the conference championship or even in the
Yeah,
playoff.
it's pretty cool. Like I think it just goes to show that the
Parity.
Heisman votes there's parity, but also it's just like not about the best player on the best
No.
team. Let's see. Let's continue to scroll down here. After the Iron Bowl, we had Arizona State crush Arizona 49-7 to secure their spot in that Big 12 championship
Arizona
game.
State coming
So
out of nowhere. Jeez.
yeah, they finished the
What a
regular
Big
season
12,
10 and 2.
what a Big 12 title game. Just like the most boring teams. Like I'm not saying that in a bad way. I just mean generally it's like wow, what a
Arizona State will play Iowa State.
just weird. Just weird.
Two of the same color schemes, two of the teams that at the beginning of the year we were like, no
Not going to be
shot,
very good.
not even interesting. But yeah, uh,
I just love that Colorado's not in it. That's just the important thing for me. It's that
I
Colorado's
never
not in it.
thought that they would get in, but as the season went on, like I'm surprised that they are not in. But it's still a net positive season for them, given where they've been in the past. Uh, the final big rivalry game, Ben, Texas pulls off the 17-7 win at Texas A&M, secures their spot in SEC championship game against Georgia. Defensive struggle right here. Quinn Ewers didn't have to do a whole lot. It was all in the run game, honestly. From Wisner, Texas running back, 33 carries, 186 yards in this one. And on the other end, Texas A&M, uh, yeah, they were outrushed in this one, 243 yards to 102. Texas had 26 first downs to just their 15. They converted 7 third downs to Texas A&M's just 4. They also converted a fourth down. Texas did, while Texas A&M went 0-3 in that category. So glad that that rivalry game is back. It should have never gone away, honestly, when Texas A&M went to the
And
SEC.
Sarkisian telling his players, "You're not planting a flag. You're being
Yeah, that
respectful.
there are a lot of fights that went on throughout the day, but this was one where it was like they
Be
just acted like
respectful."
they'd been there before and
Yeah,
left. Yeah. So, I mean, I'll tip my hat to that. Like I said earlier, I don't hate the passion coming out in the Michigan Ohio State fight, but I'm also not going to be mad that Texas A&M didn't fight either.
yeah,
So yeah, that sums up the regular season right here. We are all done. We head into conference championship week, but before we get into some of these matchups, Ben, we got to talk about our top 5 power rankings for the teams, as
yeah,
well as who our final 5 Heisman finalists are.
yeah.
And a handful
Uh,
of our Heisman finalists, like we said, aren't even going to be playing this weekend, which is
yeah.
wild.
And this will be I believe, our final for both. I believe this is going to be kind of our final
Yeah.
power rankings
What happens in
Heisman.
conference
Yeah,
championship week
we
isn't
don't
really going to
count.
make
Yeah,
me think
so
much different
yeah,
because they got
so
to this point.
yeah,
Everybody
so
else
we're
that's sitting
gonna
at home
yeah, so we're gonna
isn't
keep
going to
it.
affect it.
Yeah, we're gonna keep it. This will be like our final, so you'll kind of see that as our final. So, last week I had Oregon 1, Ohio State 2, Texas 3, Georgia 4, SMU 5. Josh had Oregon 1, Ohio State 2, Texas 3, Penn State 4, Georgia 5. Um, Obviously, I'm going to make some changes. I hate that I'm making changes. It shouldn't be. Should be High State still there, but I got to make some changes. So for me,
All right.
Oregon's number one. Just simple. They're undefeated. They're best team in the college football right now. Um, we'll see about that here in a couple weeks, but Oregon's number one. Kind of easy for me. Number 2 is Texas. They just proved themselves, at least to me. I mean, just the way the defense played, the way the offense was playing. They're a top 2, top 3 team in the country. So they're number 2 for me. Number 3, like right now, currently, it's so hard because Georgia should have lost that game. As many people, they should have lost to Georgia Tech.
That's another
Like
game that
they
we did not
should
talk
have,
about, but Georgia
they
Tech
should
was
have
up
lost to Georgia
17 to
Tech.
nothing in this one, and it
Stupid
just
flag, by
seemed
the way.
like I
Stupid
saw
flag.
so many stupid flags. I saw so many videos on Twitter where it was just like anything that could have gone against Georgia Tech's, like in their
It's almost like they
chance of winning
wanted
this
Georgia to
game.
win.
Yeah,
Huh.
I hated that, but
So yeah, so to me, I'm not moving Georgia. I'm kind of bringing Penn State back into the fold a little bit here. I want to put Penn State at 3. Um, I just, I, not saying that their offense is amazing, but their defense is very good, and I think they're solid. And then Georgia's going to stay at 4, SMU is going to stay at 5, and Ohio State drops out of mine. And that's for me, honestly, just punishing the fact that you didn't go and win the game you should have won. And
hmm,
I can't say that you're the best 5 teams if you can't beat a 6-5 Michigan team because you're not smart enough to coach it the right way. So for me, I put Ohio State like 6 or 7 in my head, and probably 6. Um, but I just think these right now are the 5 current best teams right now, and at least power ranking wise. High State could be in there, but just as a High State fan, I'm too angry and upset at the way they coach this to give them that credit.
hmm, not the way that I thought it'd go, but I'll go ahead and read mine. Oregon's still number 1, the only undefeated team left in the FBS, got to be there. And then Texas 2. Yeah, I had Ohio State 2 last week, so yeah, Texas moves up there. I'd expect them to win this rematch that they're going to have with Georgia in the SEC championship, and the defense is playing at an elite level right now. I really would like to see Quinn Ewers step it up offensively, but I think the way the defense is playing, they're not really going to need him to do that all that much.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to go ahead and drop Ohio State just down to 3, and I'll explain why. I think that, yeah, the ego from Ryan Day, I'm really upset about that too, that you couldn't get out of your own way to lose, and you lose to a 6-5 Michigan team. But I've seen them with the body of work against Penn State, against IU. They almost snagged that win at Oregon on the road in a tough environment out there. Like, I still think that they're one of the more tested teams. The talent speaks for itself, that they can come out and win some of these games. So I still would probably take Ohio State against most teams in the country. I guess I just can't stick Michigan on that list anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and just put Ohio State at 3, and I'm putting them at 3 and ahead of Penn State, who I have at 4, because they still have that head-to-head. And
Yeah, yeah.
I know Penn State has the better record, but I can't look at a single win that Penn State has that's better than any of the wins that Ohio State has. So this is a power ranking, remember. This isn't how I
Yeah.
would rate the
No,
teams.
no, I agree. Yeah.
I don't think Ohio State's 3 in my playoff poll, but as far as like best teams in the country, I still think Ohio State's the third best right now at this moment. Penn State 4. And I'm gonna go ahead and keep Georgia at 5. I still think strength of schedule wise and test wise, like they've been beating a lot of good teams. They've been beaten by some good teams. They don't have really any embarrassing losses. They almost did a couple times this season, but they've at the end of the day been able to pull it off. Notre Dame's knocking on that door for me, like at a 5B kind of,
Yeah, yeah.
but that's how I shake it up right now.
All right. And then for our Heisman watch list, for our last one, before the award is. And for me, it's for last week, I had Travis Hunter 1, 2 Ashton Jeanty, 3 Cam Ward, 4 Will Howard, 5 Shadur Sanders. You had Travis Hunter 1, Ashton Jeanty 2, Cam Ward 3, Shadur Sanders 4, Will Howard 5. There are going to be a little shuffling, not really that much. So I'll just tell you the 5. We won't go one by one because we've been repeating ourselves every single week. So for me, 5, I have sorry, where did I oh, sorry, here's my list. Sorry, 5, I have I'm putting Dylan Gabriel back in there. I had to put someone, to be honest with you. I didn't really know who else to put.
I hate by default picks,
Yeah.
but I understand this one.
Yeah, I'm just I needed one. 4 should be Shadur Sanders, 3 Cam Ward, 2 Ashton Jeanty, and 1 Travis Hunter. Kind of stays the same outside of Will Howard being dropped.
Yeah, my top 4 are going to stay the same. Travis Hunter's finishing this season graded out at by Pro Football Focus at least as a top 5 wide receiver, I believe, and a top 5 coverage corner, which everybody that's saying Travis Hunter's only the betting favorite right now because of cardio and snaps. Like, get over yourself. Like, as great of a season as Ashton Jeanty is having, and as great of a rushing season he's having compared to all the other running backs that have won the Heisman, you can't look at it as what the past running backs have done. You got to look at what's been going on in this season. And Travis Hunter, I mean, Shohei Ohtani, like, has been the comparison to him, like what he does in baseball. Shohei Ohtani wasn't ever the greatest hitter in baseball. He wasn't ever the greatest pitcher in baseball, but he was one of the best hitters and pitchers at the same time. And that's why he was winning MVPs over maybe guys that were better hitters than him, like Aaron Judge, and why he was winning the MVP over like pitchers that might have been better than him. But Travis Hunter collectively is one of the best 5 corners and receivers, and he's going to be a top 5, top 10 draft pick. So it's not like he's just going to top out at the college level and never have a future in the NFL. Travis Hunter's 1, Ashton Jeanty 2. Cam Ward for all the totals is still at 3 for me, and Shadur closed out the season strong at 4. And yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and flip Will Howard out and put Dylan Gabriel in there too. I feel the same way for you too. I guess like the quarterback of the best team in the country, I guess, is the argument. I thought Will Howard, at least going in last week when I talked about him, one of the more efficient guys, but just not that efficient against Michigan. Lost. I mean, he wasn't the only reason, as we said, but when you're the quarterback and the offense only scores 10 points, like,
Yeah.
and Ryan Day put him in a bad spot at times, but I would have liked to have seen more.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
So yeah, that wraps up the Heisman, the power rankings, and now as far as some of these games go, Ben, we're gonna get some treats on Friday night, at least with the G5 matchups. We're gonna get UNLV at Boise State, and we're gonna get Tulane at Army. But the big ones that are gonna obviously probably affect those top 4 seeds, um, we got Oregon versus Penn State. Big Ten championship happening 8 p.m. Right now, Oregon's a 3.5-point favorite. Neutral field, of course, over in Indianapolis. Uh, what are you? Where are you leaning for this one?
I won't be watching this game because 1, it's at 2 a.m. and 2, I'm too salty. I haven't watched any of the Big Ten championship games since the whole Ohio State stopped being there. But no, I still going to lean Oregon. I just don't trust Penn State's offense, and I don't trust Penn State to win a big game. And we've talked about mid Franklin, and that's pretty much what he is. And people could say, well, it's in a dome. I'm like, it doesn't matter if it's in a parking lot at an Arby's. Franklin is going to do something that's going to screw it up. Kind of like the way Ryan Day has a kryptonite of Michigan. Franklin has a kryptonite of any team that is ranked higher than
Ahead of
them
him.
and is good. Like that's his kryptonite. So for me, I'm just going to take Oregon here. I think Dylan Gabriel is going to kind of wake up, and I think this team is just going to keep playing the way they are, and I think they're going to win. I'm going to say like 34 to. I'm going to go 20.
Yeah, Penn State can wallop on the bad teams. Like they recently got the 49-10 win over Purdue. Last week they got the 44-7 win over Maryland. But yeah, that's been like the MO with James Franklin. Is like any team that's ranked ahead of him or that's definitely better than them, they just can't seem to like find an edge. And they've
Mm-hmm.
gotten close with Ohio State a couple times. They've gotten close with Michigan a couple times. But I'm gonna go ahead and take Oregon. I believe they're the best team in the country, and they'll close the season as such. So going to go ahead and take Oregon in that one. Um, Penn State's defense is still going to play really well in this one, so I'm just going to give Oregon 30 points, and Penn State's probably going to end up with I'll go 19. So I think Oregon can cover that spread.
Nice
SEC championship, we got Georgia and Texas, and
rematch.
right now Texas is the 2.5 point favorite, and of course the last time these teams played, it was at Austin. The Texas offense was awful. Georgia's offense was awful too, but they just had such great field position set up for them by Texas that it didn't matter, and they win that game by double digits. But I have a feeling that this time around is going to be a little bit different, Ben.
No, I agree with you. I think Texas, like, I just don't trust Beck as quarterback. I don't. He hasn't been consistent all year. The Georgia offense is just weird to watch. They're just so miscombobulated sometimes. I feel like um, they they don't really have tight end help this year. The receivers aren't great, and so I'm gonna go. I think, and yeah, just like Texas, I love Texas defense, and their offense is slowly but surely starting to click into form. And I'm going to go Texas wins this. I'm going to go 24-21 Texas.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and expect a low scoring one in this one too. I think that I mean both defenses are good, but I do trust Texas defense a little bit more in this one, and I will trust Quinn Ewers as a quarterback over Carson Beck in this one, even though evidence has suggested that. I mean, we've already seen one on the field result, but I'm going to go ahead and say that was a little more of a
A
outlier
fluke.
game. Yeah, more of a fluke. I think Texas is going to win this matchup 7 out of 10 times probably, and I'll go ahead and give them the edge in this one. Defensive struggle. I'm with you on that. I'm gonna go with a little more points though. I'll give Texas 26, Georgia 23.
Talk about a game next year. Texas versus Ohio State in Austin. That's going to be a heck of a game next year. I'm just
Mm,
saying.
yeah, that's one definitely to look forward to. Let's see another one that'll probably result in a top four seed. Clemson and SMU. Now the interesting thing in this one is that SMU still does not have a ranked win this season.
Yeah, it's so odd.
Really, the only time that they were tested was that week 2 game against BYU, and they lost it by 3. But they've shellacked a lot of bad teams. And then on the Clemson side, they're the more tested team. They got like a I guess record that would reflect that. They lost to a good South Carolina team. They lost to the Louisville game. They really shouldn't have lost. That was one where Louisville was coming off of like a bunch of games in a row, and Clemson I think they did have a bye before that, and then still lost at home by 2 scores. And then Georgia, I think Georgia's going to beat most teams in the country. They shellacked Clemson that week 1. So I know you feel strongly about SMU. You've had them in your power ranking pretty high, but
Mhm.
I'm leaning Clemson in this one, I think. And the reason for that is just because of they've been in this game before. I know Clemson still isn't the Clemson that we're used to seeing with the Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson days, but I believe that Dabo can come out and win a game like this. I think the SMU, while it's cool that they're in the ACC championship game in their first season over here, I think that they've been fortunate enough with the schedule that they've had to get to this point, and that's much more so the reason they're in this game than any kind of like test that they've faced this season. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that Clemson wins this on a high note. They will not lose back-to-back weeks, and they are at 9-3 going to be one of those auto bid bye week teams, which is
Oh,
freaking wild to say.
oh, everyone would be Dabo would be loving that so much. That's part of the reason why I don't is I just think after watching the Michigan High State game, I just think weird things are going to happen, and I just think somehow SMU is just going to find a way, kind of like Michigan, to just make it happen. And I think it's going to be a lower score game. And I'm going to go SMU 17, Clemson 14. I think it's going to be kind of a low scoring grind game. And I think SMU is going to come out on top.
SMU's the favorite at 2.5 points, and I'll go ahead and give my final score. I think that Clemson will put up yeah, maybe it could be a little lower scoring, but man, it's tough to say because there's still not a whole lot of like weapons on Clemson side that make me like excited either. And they just got like the 17-14 final, and SMU in that struggle with BYU, what was like an 18-15 game. So yeah, I'll hop on that with you. Lower scoring end. Give me Clemson. Oh, let's see. Give me Clemson 20, SMU 17.
Love it. Love it.
The final Power Four championship game Saturday is the one that's going to be happening first. It's Iowa State and Arizona State. Like we were saying earlier, two teams that we never would have thought would have gotten here, and I really don't know what to make of this other than I think Arizona
So
State's
weird.
gotten maybe a little bit more of the hot hand. They've come off recently with wins over BYU, wins over Kansas State, uh, UCF. Their losses came earlier in the season. They lost to, let me go ahead and give you that. Texas Tech was able to get them, and Cincinnati was able to get them. On the flip side, Iowa State. I think Iowa State is also in the same boat as SMU, as in they haven't had a single ranked win this season either. Um, they did beat Iowa week 2, but Iowa finished the season unranked. But that's, I guess, a notable win that I'll go ahead and give them. Um, they also lost to Texas Tech. Crazy. But yeah, and then their wins, I guess their next best win. Oh, excuse me. Texas Tech and Kansas got them back-to-back games.
Mm.
But of course, Kansas has been heating up later in the season. So yeah, there's not a ranked win here. Kansas State finished the season 8-4. They're not in that top 25 now. That they were ranked at the time, but again, not at this moment.
Yeah. To me, I'm just leaning just the way that like Arizona State runs the ball too. I'm leaning towards Arizona State. I think it's a cool story, but also I just think they're the better team right now, at least perspective wise. I'm gonna go Arizona State wins this. I'm gonna say 31-23, Arizona State.
Yeah, they really love Sam Lovett over there. Their quarterback, the running back over there, Cam Scatabo, I think is how you say his name, is up there with total and all-purpose yards. Got 1,300, almost 1,400 yards on the ground and 17 touchdowns in that department. But yeah, I'm leaning Arizona State in this one too. I think it's a good story, and it's one that's going to continue. And I think they'll have one of these. Uh, well, they might have one of the top 4 seeds. If Boise State wins, they are a higher ranked team right now and would be a conference
Yeah,
champ. So maybe Boise State finds themselves as one of like these top 4 seeds. But
yeah,
maybe the committee will decide to reward a Power Four champ at the end of the day, anyways. But yeah, I'm leaning Arizona State too. I'm going to give Arizona State a 31-23 victory, pretty similar to what you said.
love it.
But yeah, Ashton Jeanty and Boise State, they'll be playing UNLV in that Mountain West game, and they are the 11 seed right now. And if they win that, Arizona State 16, Iowa State 18 right now. Boise State could have one of those 4 auto bids.
Yeah, and I think it'd be hard to not give them that if they're already this high up now. So we'll see what happens. But Janty deserves to have that spotlight in the playoff for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Friday night I'll be off work. I'm actually excited about some of these matchups. I think like Army's 10-1. They'll be playing 17 Tulane, who's 9-3. UNLV's 22nd. Boise State's 11. Like it's cool to see like these. We got some higher profile like G5 championships.
Yeah,
So yeah, it pretty much covers the college football space. We did want to talk some NFL and Browns.
briefly, yeah.
Yeah, we saw a high scoring matchup Monday night against Denver and Bo Nix, and we did get to see the best and the worst of Jameis Winston in that one. Dude ended up with like 60 pass attempts and like 500 yards almost, 4 touchdowns, but he had
Is
the
that the
three
record?
picks.
Yeah.
David Njoku somehow, since the Browns came back in '99, now became the new Browns all-time leading touchdown
Just
catcher or receiver. Judy had over 200 yards receiving in this one, so there was still like exciting stuff that happened for Cleveland this one, but ultimately still ends up in a
But it's
loss.
fun to
And
watch them again, man. Like they're having fun,
we
and
never
it
would
is
have gotten a
fun.
game like that with
No,
Deshaun at quarterback.
never. Look, I will take the 2 pick sixes if that means I actually get to enjoy Browns football again. I'll take it. And it sounds terrible, but I'll take it.
Yeah, it does sound weird. Denver improves to 8-5 in that, and we fall to 3-9, unfortunately. But
Hey, you know what? It's what you get with Jameis, and it's like what they said. If you took his stats, what he has right now, and stretched it to a 17 season, he would have the most passing yards in NFL history, but he would also have 24 interceptions for the year.
yeah, it sounds about right.
They
Yeah,
do need to draft. My dad and I talked about it. I'm worried about them drafting because I don't think this quarterback class coming in is going to be a great quarterback class for the NFL. It does worry me a little bit. I would love them to get Travis Hunter. I think that would be phenomenal. Just put him out there and see what happens. But I'm very weary about drafting any of these quarterbacks right now.
well, let's look at who we're competing with for that first overall spot right now. So the
Yeah,
worst records in the league right now are the
Giants and
Jacksonville
Jets.
Jaguars at 2-10. They got Trevor Lawrence. They just extended him to
Yeah,
$275 million. They should move on from him, but they won't with that kind of a contract. So
no.
they will not be drafting a quarterback. Las Vegas Raiders,
And
2 and
after and
10.
after that hit, I don't know if he can physically do anything now.
Yeah, he might not play the rest of the season, but I'm
Looked
sure that they're
nasty.
planning him being back, of course. But yeah, Vegas 2 and 10. I know that they're going to be in the mix for a quarterback,
Yep.
and the Giants at 2 and 10 now that they've finally moved on from Daniel Jones, the man that they decided to pay instead of Saquon
Isn't it
Barkley.
funny that the two former New York quarterbacks are now succeeding? They're going to be on a successful team. It's kind of funny how that works.
It is. So we're at 3 and 9. We'll be in the mix, as is Carolina, who's 3 and 9, but I doubt that they move on from Bryce Young after 2 years.
Yeah, I doubt it.
Take a
Yeah, I doubt
quarterback immediately. And then you got New England, who's 3 and 10, the Jets, who are 3 and 9. The Jets, I could see going for a quarterback. I think that they should definitely move on from Aaron Rodgers after this year. They're bad because they're bad and because he's bad.
it. He's
And
just
then
bad.
and New England just took Drake May. They're not going to go and take another quarterback. So realistically, there's only two other teams, three, maybe three. Yeah, the Vegas will be looking for a quarterback. The Giants will be looking for a
But
quarterback,
you know
and
how
the
it's going to work with
Jets
the
and
Browns,
us.
though, is that they'll end up winning like 4 or 5 games at the end of the year, and then they're just going to like get themselves out of like good drafting position. You know, that's just what's going to happen. It's just the
Even
way
if
it's
we
going to work.
wanted to do that, Ben, I don't know if we can because we play Pittsburgh, we play the Chiefs, we play the
Yeah.
Bengals, the Dolphins, and the Ravens to end the season.
Yeah, it's all losses. We're going to go 3-14. That's just the way it's going to be.
I don't think that we win at Pittsburgh or at home against the Chiefs,
No.
but we probably can win at Cincinnati because they're not that good. We could win at home against the Dolphins because it's a cold weather game.
So
We could win
5 and
against the
12.
Ravens if the Ravens got a high enough seed locked up and then they just play their
Yeah,
backups.
5-12.
I'm going to go ahead and give us a 6-win ceiling,
Okay, yeah,
which
well,
probably takes us out of one of those like big
yeah.
quarterback spots. But still, I am not feeling great about any of the quarterback
Just don't
options that
draft
we'd have.
Shadur. Just don't draft Shadur. Please
That's the
don't.
one I feel the best about, though.
Ugh,
I hate to say
we'll
it,
deal
but
with
are
Dion.
you going to go ahead and take Quinn Ewers or Cam Ward over him?
No, I don't take any of them. Let's just suffer one more year.
Suffer one more year, Jameis Winston at quarterback?
Yeah, just go for it. Why not? Or trade for Justin Fields. Just do that.
Or trade for Justin Fields? Man, I hate it here. But
I hate it here.
speaking of Justin Fields, that Pittsburgh Steelers Bengals game was pretty fun to watch. I actually watched that on Sunday when some of my free time. But yeah, we're gonna be playing the Pittsburgh Steelers this Sunday.
That is a loss. That is
Yeah,
a 100% loss.
yeah, we got that's at
1,000.
Pittsburgh. They're 6.5 point favorites. They're 9-3. They're
They are winning this game
first place in this division, who I picked to finish last in the division.
as well as I did.
Yeah, like honestly, the way that the division's shaking up
We
right
we are
now, like
really bad at with our preseason
it's
rankings
it's
this
literally
year.
like backwards. I think did you pick Cleveland to win the division?
Yes.
All right, I picked Cincinnati to win and Cleveland second, but it's literally backwards for you then, because
Yep.
Cleveland's in last, Cincinnati's
100%.
in third,
Yep.
Baltimore second, Pittsburgh first.
Yep. Flipped it. Dude, we were so bad this year with our predictions of every sport we've predicted. It's just we were bad this
Yeah,
year.
yeah. I think the only
That
one that
doesn't make me happy for March Madness then, dude. I think our March Madness might be awful.
Not very good. I think that we both were unanimous on Houston winning that division, and they're still in first. I think that we might have both said Philly, and we might
Yeah.
have both said Detroit.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay's tied for the lead right now with Atlanta at 6-6. We could still be right about
That
that.
that division's terrible.
Yeah. As is the NFC West.
They're also bad.
Yeah. Seattle in first with 7 and
Also,
5,
can we talk
but
about how the Cardinals are misusing Marvin Harrison Jr. right now? It drives me nuts.
you can talk about that because I'm not as familiar with that
No, it
subject.
just they're just not throwing him the ball that often, and it's just mind blowing to me. It's okay. It's
Yeah,
just
if you're gonna use so right now McBride, their tight ends, leads the team in targets with 92, and then Marv is second with 78.
just seems a little off. If you're gonna, I don't know, maybe that's just me, but
Yeah, I would have thought like fourth overall pick that
you're just gonna feed him the
you
ball no
try to
matter
involve
what.
him a little bit more. Yeah, yeah, try to get him involved a little bit more than what you have been. Um, One rookie that's getting fed those Brock Bowers. He's still fourth in the country in receiving
You called it.
yards. I love the pick. I love the pick, and when you got to issue a quarterback, usually you lean on your tight ends to get most of the production. And I was a little worried about how he'd hold up health wise because he had the injuries at Georgia, but kid's proven that he belongs in this league.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, that's everything I had to talk about
Yeah,
today, Ben.
same.
I'm hoping that eventually we'll have a big move in the Cleveland baseball market that we can talk about, but starting to look less and less likely.
Oh no, we just paid 22 million for Nick Martinez. Such a terrible move, but you know, Reds just that's what we do.
Yeah, we did let Matt Boyd go. He signed 2 years, 29
Yeah,
million with the Cubs,
we
and
traded India. That's because I don't know why we did that, but
India traded her. Yep.
just,
I didn't want to give Boyd 2 years, 29 million, so the Cubs can take him for that money.
yeah, I just and
I hate to see him go
Blake
though.
Snell goes to the Dodgers, which just again adds another freaking just add
They're gonna
another
have Blake
arm.
Snell, assuming that they're all fully healthy. Blake Snell, Tyler
Yamamoto.
Glasnow, Yamamoto, Shohei, and if
Oh
they
god.
re-sign Kershaw, or they can have a fully healthy Dustin May or Tony
Oh,
Gonsolin,
that's
which is just
terrifying.
wild, dude, to think about.
The Reds have injury prone Hunter Green, injury prone Nick Lodolo, injury prone rookie. They'll have another Nick Martinez who's 22 million for a 5 ERA. You know, just why not?
Yeah, man.
Why not? Anyways, that has been a great episode. You've heard me rant, and I'm sorry. I apologize, but I needed to get it off my chest, and I can talk to Josh about it. So it was like therapy for me. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you love watching this episode on YouTube, go ahead and click that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. If you love listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, let us know how much you enjoy it by rating us, giving us that nice rating. It's definitely awesome to see, and the comments are great. I know my dad commented about Josh's on YouTube. He commented about how Josh said that the hammer wasn't going to go down for Michigan, and he's like determined that it's going to. So I just thought it was hilarious. So my dad was very adamant about that in the comment, but we'll see what happens in the future. Again, we'll see what happens with this Ohio State team. We'll see what happens with Ryan Day and all these news we'll bring to you. Signing day is happening tomorrow as we're recording this. So that will be finished so we can talk about the recruiting classes and stuff next week. So all that is coming up very, very soon. So once again, thank you guys. Enjoy your weekend. And until next time, we'll see ya.